Many scripts get read by big-name actors every year, and the fact of the matter is, they can't take every role they read. While that may be the case, some actors and actresses have turned down parts that could have helped their careers. It makes you wonder what the world would have been like if they had chosen to accept. These films could have turned out much differently than they ended up. Here are major roles turned down by movie stars.
Hey guys, how's it going? I'm your host, American Eye, bringing to you another epic video. Before we get started today, make sure you hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, and leave us a comment. Let us know what you think.
Number 14. Leonardo DiCaprio. We all know that Boogie Nights was a fantastic movie and that Mark Wahlberg did a great job portraying Dirk Diggler. But did you know that that part was initially offered to Leonardo DiCaprio? Leo would have had to turn down the role to the movie that would have launched his career into star status, but not before he made a recommendation of his own. Paul Thomas Anderson had seen Leonardo DiCaprio in The Basketball Diaries and had wanted him for the part. Leo recommended his friend and co-star from the movie Mark Wahlberg, and the rest is history. Mark Wahlberg was iconic and everyone came out happy in the end. But can you imagine if he had taken the part? And can you imagine a Titanic without Leo? Number 13. Matt Damon. While playing a character like Two-Face may not seem very Matt Damon-like, it could have happened. Matt Damon was offered to play the part of Harvey Dent in 2008, the film The Dark Knight, but he was committed to Invictus at that point, so there would have been too many conflicts to try to film both. He ended up passing that part to Aaron Eckhart, and now we couldn't imagine the character being played by anyone else. Eckhart did exceptionally well as Dent, so we're okay with the way things happen. But it would have been interesting to see what Matt Damon could have done with the Batman villain. Here's to hoping for the future. Number 12. Denzel Washington. Denzel is well known and has made many a hit movie across the course of his career. But he does regret turning down one movie, and that one movie is Seven. Washington could have been a part of the film, the main part, Detective David Mills, but instead turned it down to work on Devil in a Blue Dress. Brad Pitt ended up swooping in to fill the hole in the role, and his career did all better for it. Washington had stated that he thought the movie was so dark and evil and admitted that not taking it was a mistake. That's okay though, his career went on, and he's been quite successful anyway. Number 10. Jack Nicholson. Speaking of Al Pacino, did you know that Jack Nicholson turned down the role of Michael Corleone in The Godfather? Can you imagine Nicholson playing the part instead of Pacino? We sure can't. So we're glad the talented actor passed it up. But why did he do it? Nicholson gave his explanation in true Jack Nicholson style when he said, "Back then, I believe that Indians should play Indians and Italians should play Italians." It's true, Pacino is Italian and he was absolutely the perfect person to portray Corleone. But it sounds like he does kind of owe Nicholson a little for the bone. Number 9. Harrison Ford. Yes, even the legend that is Harrison Ford passed up a movie that probably could have made him even more famous, and probably would have introduced him to a younger generation. The movie we're talking about is Jurassic Park. The part he was offered was that of Dr. Alan Grant. Spielberg had worked with Ford on the Indiana Jones movies, and he liked him so much that he was willing to give him the role in the new film. But in the end, Ford declined. The part ended up going to Sam Neill, but despite the rejection, there was no loss of love between the two. Number 8. Tom Selleck. Okay, to be honest, this one wasn't really turned down. It was more that the fact that Tom Selleck had something else going on. Anyway, did you know that Tom Selleck was offered the part of Indiana Jones in The Raiders of the Lost Ark? Steven Spielberg actually wanted Harrison Ford, but surprisingly, an executive producer by the name of George Lucas didn't. Lucas didn't want to cast Ford again as he saw him as Han Solo, but luckily for Ford, Selleck had to drop the part due to Magnum PI, and the part eventually went to Ford. Can you even imagine what the world would have been like if Selleck had played Indy? And what would have happened for Ford's career? We don't even want to know the answers to those questions, so it's a good thing now that's just hypothetical. Number 7. Burt Reynolds. This poor man apparently only had good judgment about half the time. He turned down so many great roles that it's hard to even believe he could still make a career. Reynolds was offered the part of Garrett Breedlove in Terms of Endearment, a role which earned Jack Nicholson a Best Supporting Actor Oscar. That's something that Reynolds never got, an Oscar. He too turned down the part of Han Solo, as well as the role of Michael Corleone. He also skipped playing the first ever American James Bond, Frank T.J. Mackey in Magnolia, Travis Bickle in The Taxi Driver, and John McClane in Die Hard. These are all roles that would have no doubt boosted Reynolds' career even further than it ever got. We just hope that he was never much for gambling. Can you imagine how much money he would have lost? Number 6. Marilyn Monroe. Can you imagine how much different Breakfast at Tiffany's would have been if Marilyn Monroe had accepted the part and took away one from Audrey Hepburn? Well, that was a possibility way back then, but lucky for Hepburn, Monroe turned it down. Truman Capote wanted Marilyn Monroe, but someone else warned her that playing Holly Golightly could have damaged her career, and when to keep her career intact, she denied. This is an example of an iconic role in an iconic movie that came about by someone else trying to save face. And it probably wasn't the best decision that Marilyn Monroe ever made. Number 5. Johnny Depp. Can you imagine Johnny Depp skipping school, riding around town in his best friend's car, signing in a parade, and just generally being rowdy? Well, that was what almost happened when he was considered to play the part of Ferris Bueller in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. The only problem is that John Hughes has said that he wrote the part of Bueller with Matthew Broderick in mind. So in the end, he ended up with the part. Depp apparently also turned down roles in movies like The Matrix, Speed, and Mr. and Mrs. Smith. While those were all pretty big movies during their time, the decisions to skip out on them don't seem to have hurt his career much. In fact, he probably came out better than if he had decided to do them. Nice plays, Mr. Depp. Number 4. Nicolas Cage. Now, we're not really much of a position to judge, but we think that Nicolas Cage may have missed out a bit of a career opportunity. He told Newsweek that he was offered the role of Aragorn in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but turned it down. It was because of the amount of time it would take to film the film. He said, "There were different things in my life going on at the time that precluded me from being able to travel and to be away from home for 3 years." Now, we can totally understand and respect that, but that doesn't mean he didn't miss out on a role that could have changed his life. He's not upset about it though. He said that since he didn't appear in the films, he can enjoy them as a fan. He has enough money anyway, and Viggo Mortensen did a fantastic job of Aragorn. We all won. Number 3. Christopher Plummer. This denial of a role is understandable if you take into account that Christopher Plummer would have been nearly 70 years old at the time of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Yes, so this is another actor who passed up the part in the fantastical series, but instead of Aragorn, he was looking to play Gandalf. When you're that old, you don't know how much time you got left. And a 3-year filming commitment sounds like it could have ended up being the last thing he ever did. He's even a fan of the books written by J.R.R. Tolkien, and has said that he wasn't exactly sure why he turned down the part. But he did go on to state that, "I thought there were other countries I'd like to visit before I croak." Enough said, Mr. Plummer, enough said. We can't imagine anyone else other than Ian McKellen as Gandalf anyway. Number 2. Ian McKellen. While we're on the subject of Ian McKellen, we figured it was fitting to mention a huge role he turned down. When Richard Harris passed away, McKellen was offered the opportunity to take over as Albus Dumbledore in the Harry Potter movies, but he declined. First of all, he says he doesn't regret it because he already got to play Gandalf in the Lord of the Rings film. Second, he stated that considering Richard Harris kind of trash-talked McKellen's acting abilities not long before he passed away, it wouldn't be fair to take over the part. This seems wholly understandable. He didn't feel like shoving it in Harris's face. Granted. Good on you, Sir McKellen. The part ended up going to Michael Gambon, who we think did a fine job. But before we get to our number 1, we've seen some big names who gave up on some pretty big significant roles so far, but we still got one more to go. But first, we'd like to ask you guys, who do you think would have gone farther or even saved their careers if they had taken these roles? Which actor or actresses do you think would have been most benefited from a movie that they passed up? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And number 1, Molly Ringwald. Oh, Miss Ringwald, we wonder what would have happened with your career if you would have said yes. Molly Ringwald was sent the script for Pretty Woman, read it, and then chose to decline. She says she doesn't regret it though, and that part was obviously destined for Julia Roberts, as Robert played it perfectly. Ringwald said every actor hopes for a part that lets them shine like that. Which is pretty great to hear her say that, considering that it might have been something that could have changed her career. But you can't win them all. It's just sad to see the way Molly Ringwald's career has gone since the 1990s. But if she's okay with it, then we guess we are too.
So what did you guys think of that video? Be sure you hit that subscribe button to stay tuned for more Epic American Eye videos. We'll see you next time.